Hi, my name is Lorraine Watry and welcome to my studio. I am a watercolor artist and I've worked with watercolor for 26 years now, and I thought I would start a new series of videos where I go over different tips, tricks, and techniques for working with watercolor. And hopefully these short videos will help you in your journey, and if you have a question or a technique that you would like to see, please comment below and I will try to accommodate that in a future video. Today's tip and trick video is going to be a fun way to practice some color mixing, and for my color theory class I have used this game to help the students work together and helpfully see color and learn how to mix colors. And so the game is done with either pieces of cutout colors from a magazine, or you can get color cards from a paint department, and that's what I have in this cup, are different pieces of color. So what I thought I would do is choose 3 colors, and I am not looking, so let's see if I can pull out one here. Okay, whoops, I got 2, but the top one was this orange, so I'll use that one, and I'll pull out another one, so that one, without looking, I'll choose one more. Let's see what I get. Okay, so those are my 3 colors, and then depending on how quickly these go, I might do a few more. And the thing to think about, and I have more going on in this game with a phone a friend and other things that you can the students could use to get help, but the things to think about when you're making a color is what color family is it in. So for this one is, and you think normally color family in the basic term would be red, blue, green, purple, yellow, orange. So obviously the orange family, the yellow family, and the blue family. And then, does the color lean toward warm or cool in its color family? So is this a warmer orange or a cooler orange? And I can talk about that a little bit with colors that are on my palette in a few seconds. And then, is it a vibrant or muted color? So is it a little grayed down or a little more neutral, or is it a vibrant color? And so those are the things to think about, and I'll just slide this up here out of the way, and I'll probably post that at the end of the video with my final color swatches so you can see that closer if you'd like to. And since I pulled the orange first, I will start there. Let me just get that paper out of the way. And so for this orange, what I am going to do is try to mix something, and I can try, I can start with the oranges that are on my palette just to see if any of them are close enough to that color, and then I could work with it from there. But also to give you an idea of warm and cool, your colors that you have and that also you see are relational. So if you have another orange or something next to it that makes this color feel cooler or warmer, it depends on what is around it. Also, it's not just the color itself. So I'm going to start by pulling out my, and I always have to look at the name of this one because I forget. It is Fabriano Orange. So Fabriano Orange is pretty close to that color. And when I look at them together, of course this is wet, so it would need to dry a little bit. For watercolor, because it takes a little bit for things to dry, and also it loses about 20 to 30% of its value as it's drying. Right now it's going to look darker and brighter because it is wet, and that will make it look a little brighter. It is also just a touch on the cooler side compared to this color. So there's that one, and then the other orange that I have on my palette, I actually have 2 more. This one, I'll show you it first, is transparent Parole Orange, and it's a darker orange, and it is definitely cooler, so it's leaning more toward red. There is more red in this color. So when you look at those two, this one is definitely warmer, this one's a little cooler, but this orange is slightly warmer than that one. And I'm actually feeling like it is just a little more neutral. Even as this dries, we'll have to see in a second. I may pause and dry it right quick so that we can see. And if you do this with other paint, for instance, acrylic or oil, oil you might be able to change or tell pretty quickly if the color is the same, because I can't remember if there is a color or value shift with oil. And with acrylic, I believe they dry a little darker than how you put them on. And then this is my third orange that I have on my palette. So this is my permanent? Yes, that is my permanent orange. So when you look at these three oranges together, this one is leaning more toward yellow, this is kind of in the middle, and then this is leaning more toward red. So when I'm looking at my color swatch, if I wanted to use a convenience color, and that's what these are considered, because you can mix an orange from a yellow and a red, and that's probably how I will make this swatch. I may try adjusting this convenience color, the Fabriano orange, to see if I can get it close to that. But I will try first with a yellow and an orange just to see, because not everyone has oranges on their palette. And if you're first learning color, sometimes it's easier to just pick a red, a yellow, and a blue and work with those colors for a while, rather than using convenience colors. So I am going to use my quinacridone rose and probably my aureolin yellow, but I may try my new gamboge, because the new gamboge is a little warmer, and when you mix it with a cooler red, this red is a little cooler, it's leaning, that red leans toward purple a little more than some reds. The warmer yellow and the cooler red will already sort of make a more neutral orange mix. So I'll try two things. First of all, I'll try my warm yellow with the red, and I'm going to need more yellow in the mix than red. And alright, so this is try number one. Let's see. Okay, so if I put that there, I feel like it's not dark enough, so let me see if I can get a little more value in here. Actually, I'm going to take it off. I have my board tipped, so I'm going to try to get the color to pool just a little more and stay where I place it rather than use gravity down the shape. So that's somewhat similar value-wise, and I think I need to dry it to be sure before, I think it needs to go a little redder actually. So I'm going to just see if I can get a little more red in that mix. And then before I go to dry that, because it can help to see it after it's dry, I'm going to use the same red, the Quin Rose, with my aureolin yellow. And aureolin yellow is a little cooler. It's leaning a little more toward green. And a touch of the, oh, that might be better. The Quin Rose with it. Okay, so this is, that's not bad. I think I need a little more of the yellow in the mix. I might actually need to go the opposite way, but we'll see. Okay. Yep, I need more red in the mix. Alright, so I need to get some more red out. And when you are learning to mix color, it is this going back and forth that can be really helpful. And it can be a matter of just a little bit of one pigment or the other in the mix, and that can make the difference on how that mix is looking. Okay, so I'm just adding, while this is still damp, I'm adding a little bit more of the rose. I did put just a touch more of the yellow in there, so okay. So I'm going to dry those two. These are looking pretty similar right now, but I think they're darker right now because this needs to, it's not dry. I'm going to go back over here right quick, and this is so close. So while this is drying just a little bit, I think I'm going to take my Fabriano orange and maybe just a touch of burnt sienna, because burnt sienna is in kind of the same color family. It's a warmer color. It is a brown, obviously, but it has a lot of red in it. And so if I take the burnt sienna and the Fabriano, which is right here, and get just a touch more out, and then I'm going to use the Fabriano over here and just a little touch of the burnt sienna with it. I don't want too much in there. And I think I'll place that, let's see, it's getting a little confusing where I'm placing things now. I may have to label these. I'll go a touch of water in that mix. Okay, and then I'm actually just lifting a little bit of that extra water off of that shape. And I'm going to dry these, and then I'll compare them right quick and see where everything is, how it's working. Move that first. Actually, I'll probably need to move these completely so that they don't blow away. And I'll just pop that on there. Okay, I'll dry this, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so I have dried the areas that were still damp, and now that I have the areas dry, I can better see the values of what's going on, and definitely I got this one way too dark. These two are better value-wise. See, there's not a huge difference value-wise between them. This one is actually pretty close. This one is a little cooler. So I might work on the New Gamboge and the Quin Rose together and see if I can get it just a touch closer. It feels like it needs maybe a little more yellow in the mix. So I'll try one more time on that, and then I'll move on to the next color. So when you're doing color mixing, when I work with a photograph, I'm not necessarily, or even something in, oops, using the wrong color there. Even if I'm painting on location, I am not trying to mix things necessarily exactly the same color, but if I want to get close to something, it can be helpful to do practice things like this. So, and to know what might work to make a mix. And let's see. All right, we'll start there. It needs a little more red in it. I'm going to pull a little more of the rose from down here. It's pretty close. Oops. If I can get that closer, there we go. So that's pretty close. If I were adjusting this some more, I might try a different red and see if that red worked with the New Gamboge a little bit better, maybe like my quinacridone red with the New Gamboge. Actually, this is Quin Red. And try that mix, and I can do that one right quick, and then I will go on and try to make that yellow. And yellows can be a hard one to make, so I'll talk about that in a second. And I actually have a yellow that is a convenience color that may be actually that exact yellow, but I'm going to use the yellows on my palette because I don't have it over on this palette. Alright, so I'm using Quin Red with the New Gamboge, and I need a little more New Gamboge because I pulled too much Quin Red over. Let's see. So when you're trying to lighten your color in watercolor, obviously water is your lightening agent. So if you're working with a color and it's just a little too dark, then you add water. I don't use white in my paintings. I always use the white of the paper. And so to lighten a color, I don't add opaque colors to it. Or white watercolor, I use water to lighten it. Alright, let's see how that's reading. It's pretty good. We'll have to see how it is when it dries. So this one is almost dry. It's a little more neutral maybe than the actual square of color. So I'll see how this one dries. I'll move this out of the way for a minute, and I will pull that other piece of paper down. And I save the scraps of my paintings that I have, if I take and cut a painting from a bigger piece of paper, cut the size for a painting from a bigger piece of paper, then I'll save those extra pieces and do things like this. So before I do a painting, I might try a small color study, or I might try mixing some colors that I'm going to use, or I'll use them in classes. Okay, so the next color that I chose is a yellow, and going back to the color theory game that I do with my classes, the color family is the yellow family, and then does it lean toward warm or cool? And I would say it leans more toward the cool side of yellows because it has a little more green in it. It's not on the orangier side of yellows. And then is it vibrant or muted? And I would say it's more muted. It's more sort of a banana yellow maybe. It's not a lemon yellow. And so this yellow, like I said, I believe I have a color in a different palette that is very similar to that. I'm going to start with my Hansa Yellow Light, and I have Hansa on my palette instead of lemon yellow. And so Hansa, you can see as I paint this on that Hansa Yellow Light is a lot more vibrant than the yellow that I'm going to mix. So I could start with that, and I'll just quickly pull out my other couple of my other yellows just so you can see the difference, like I did over here. This yellow is Aureolin yellow, and it is a slightly warmer yellow compared to the Hansa yellow, and it is a little darker. So yellows don't have as much value as some other colors. You can't get them as dark as, say, your darkest yellow won't go as dark as some of the reds and blues and greens will go. But we're not mixing a really dark one. And then this is my New Gamboge. And I have a couple other yellows, but I'm not going to pull them out right now. So New Gamboge is leaning more toward orange or red, and so it is the warmest yellow out of these, and definitely warmer and darker than this swatch of color here. And I'll go back up here right quick. So that mix is getting closer. It's not quite the right value. It would need to be darker, and but it's pretty similar. It's not as vibrant as some of these over here, so that would maybe be a good direction to go. And if you're doing watercolor and you're liking your color mix, but maybe you put your color down on your paper and you decide, oh, I'm not getting it quite dark enough, you can either try to make your mix darker, or you can add a layer. So you can add another layer over this, and that can help darken it. So I'll just do half here. Just adding another layer over that might be all I need to do. Alright, so I'll let that dry, and then we'll see how it compares to the swatch again. So going back to the yellow, I will try to mix something that is close to this yellow, and I'm going to start with my Hansa yellow, but I'm going to have to adjust it. So one of the first things that I can do is I can take a little bit of that burnt sienna and I can put it in with the yellow, because that will neutralize that yellow a little bit, and you can see that right from here. You can see that it's a little more neutral than the Hansa yellow that's next to it, because I've added that burnt sienna to it. And then it's maybe not quite light enough, so I'll try adding some clear water to that mix and see if I can lighten it a little bit. And that might be pretty close. The other option I can do is to add a different brown. We'll see that in just a second. So that's getting there. It is a little more neutral. It's close enough, but I'm going to try burnt umber instead of burnt sienna. And I will, let's see, I need to clean this area up just a little bit so that I don't end up contaminating the new mix. So I'll pull out my Hansa Yellow Light, and then I know this is a little more neutral than these vibrant colors over here. You could try mixing a little bit of a purple with it, but you'd have to be very careful with that mix, and I kind of feel like it would maybe push it too far into the green color with it, because you're in purple, you're adding, purple is made up of blue and red, so you're adding some blue. Okay, so I have my burnt umber out, and it's a slightly cooler brown compared to the burnt sienna. So I'm going to take a little bit of that burnt umber and mix it with my Hansa, maybe just a touch more, and then a little bit of water in that mix. And let's see what that does. I actually think I'm liking the burnt sienna in the mix better. Let me get a little more yellow in the mix and a little bit of water. Let's see if that changes anything. It's pretty good, but I think the burnt sienna actually worked better and is pretty similar to that color swatch. So I'm happy enough with that I will move on from there, and I will try to figure out this blue. So this blue, right off the bat, obviously it's in the blue family. It is, for me, I say that, and there's different schools of thought. You will see both, if you look up blue, whether it's leans toward the cool or leans toward the warm. I feel like the turquoise colors, phthalo, magenta, or manganese, peacock, those turquoisey colors are leaning toward the green, and so I see that as a warmer side of the cool family. And the cobalt and ultramarine blues, those lean toward purple, and that to me is the cooler side of the family. So you will see the opposite of that from some artists, and some manufacturers say just the opposite. And so it really just depends on how you, who you are looking at for your information. So, so I'm seeing this as leaning toward the warm side, and I can start with one of my turquoise colors. I'll interrupt myself for a second. I actually moved that swatch of orange over up here to see how it's comparing to that darker area of the orange that I laid down. And this is a little more vibrant than this. I'm going to put it back over here, but now I can see definitely that this is a lot more vibrant, and this is not. This is lighter and slightly warmer than this original Paranone. Yeah, I think it's closest to here. So I'm going to one more time pull out some Quin Red and mix it with my New Gamboge and see if I add one more layer, if I can get it even closer. So I'll just come right back over that. Okay, I'll let that dry and go back down to the turquoise. And this, I will start with my turquoise blues that I have on my palette, and this is Phthalo Blue. And phthalo is a staining color. It is a very, very vibrant turquoise color, and this is a green shade, because phthalo also comes, turquoise color also comes in blue shade, so they're slightly different. Oh, actually, I always say that wrong. This may be the blue shade. It is the green shade. Okay, so it has it marked on, I have my palette with labels on it, so I have it marked on there. So you can see that this is that's lighter, definitely. It's got a little more green in the mix, and so phthalo might be a good jumping off point, but I'm going to try a couple of my other turquoise colors right quick. This is Cerulean. And Cerulean is a little more neutral of a turquoise color, and it won't go as dark as phthalo. It is also not a staining color. So this is Cerulean, and it is value-wise closer, but this has still got more green in it. Okay, and then the last one I will pull out is Manganese. And Manganese is, I find, a little harder to get out of the well, for one, to kind of wake up the pigment. And it is a little more vibrant than Cerulean. And it is about the same value. I think Cerulean actually might be a little darker, but it is still pretty similar. Let's see how this compares. That's actually getting there. So I might use Manganese as my jumping off point for doing mixes for this one. And I'm going to try a little bit, maybe a tiny touch, I won't need much, of my Aureolin Yellow with Manganese. And let me clean this off right quick. So this is still drying, but I'm pretty happy with that it's pretty close. I may go find my other palette right quick, pause the video and go find my other palette so I can show you that other color that I'm thinking of. Let's see. I'm going to get out some Aureolin. And some of this is just from doing paintings that I'm kind of guessing what might work. Some of it is literally just guessing and playing. So when you're trying colors, I would just sit down and start making mixes. And make sure that you write the labels of the pigments on there. You might even go so far as to write, oh, I used 75% of this color and 25% of that color. And you can mix more than one color together, but sometimes just mixing two colors is a good way to start. Okay, so I have mostly the Manganese out, and I will get just a little bit of the Aureolin in that, and I'm going to put that down, and it is already greener, and that is pretty close. Let me pull my color swatch over, and that's pretty close. I'm going to try one more with a little more of the Aureolin in it and see. I can't put too much Aureolin because it'll go green too fast, which I may have done already. Yeah, that's pretty green. I need more Manganese in the mix. So sometimes there's a fine line between how much of one color and the other color together that you use. All right, let's go a little more. That's pretty good. All right. I'm trying to get it dark enough is why I'm going back over it. A little more value in there. All right, so that's pretty good. So right now, I think color-wise, it's matching pretty good, and that was going from manganese, adding a little bit of the aureolin yellow to it, and then I added too much, and then I brought a little more of the manganese back into it, and now I'm getting pretty close to that blue. And the other one was I added another layer to that orange mix, and it's pretty similar, but now I think I've gotten it, well, maybe not. The way to help you see a color is squint your eyes, or to see a value, I should say. So when I'm looking at it without my eyes squinted, it looked a little dark, but then when I squint, it's pretty similar in value. This color swatch might be just a touch lighter than what this ended up being, but color-wise, it looks pretty good. So sometimes when you make a mix, it is adjusting the value in order to get it close to your color swatch. It may not be that the color is off, but it may be that you just need to either darken or lighten it. So before I end, I just remembered that I was going to show you how I might have a yellow on a palette that would match this color swatch pretty close. And this is just an extra little palette that you can get to have paint that maybe you don't use all the time, and it's from Cheap Joe's, and it fits, I believe, into one of their bigger palettes that you can add this to it, and it comes with a lid and all of that. I just had already taken the lid off, and this is the yellow that I was thinking of. So it's called Nickel Titanate Yellow, and I will make sure all the color names are on these. And let me grab my brush. And again, this would be considered a convenience color, so you could have a ton of pigments on your palette, but sometimes it's better to know how to mix a color than just keep adding pigments. And let me pull this out. So this is the color Straight, and it is just slightly greener, it looks like, than my color swatch. So I think in the end, using the Hansa Yellow Light with a bit of burnt sienna was a little closer, although depending on how this dries, that might not be bad. So it might actually be somewhere in between there. So I wonder if adding just a touch of burnt sienna to the nickel titanate would adjust it enough. Okay. A little more. Alright, and I'm going to put just a little bit of that, maybe a touch more. Get a little more yellow in the mix still. Okay, so put that on there and we'll see. I don't know, it's so close. This one's just a touch warmer. This one's just maybe a little bit greener, but it's very close. So I would probably opt for the nickel titanate yellow. At first I was thinking here, but now as this dries, it is very similar. So, and then I think the burnt sienna addition to it kind of made it a little more muted, and it's not quite as, this is not as muted as this new little patch is right here. So I hope this was helpful and kind of fun to see the challenge of creating or matching color and just kind of making a game out of it, and that it can be useful in your journey to learn watercolor and make mixes and learn things that are beneficial to doing paintings. So if you have a tip, trick, or technique video that you would like to see in the future, please comment below, or if you have any questions about this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.